morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser. On a Monday morning, we are with Grumpy, as always, and brought to you by Reckless Coffee Roasters, as always. And as always, we have the Polish Prince with us. What's happening?
Not much. I wish I had a Grumpy on this mug because it certainly feels like about time to throw Grumpy on there. It's all it is just this damn liver bird.
Oh man, yeah, we got a lot to talk about. The funny thing is, I did you a semi favor. I feel like so that it's not kept being rubbed in. But we are going to have. I actually talked about this last week. We're going to have the Liverpool Supporters Club from Netherlands on, so we can get some information about Arnie. We had some like scheduling issues. Kim had some issues on our side and stuff like that, so we couldn't do it on Thursday. We were going to push it to this morning and almost have her live. But I was like, it's going to be really awkward as she's celebrating the Euro win while you're mourning the Euro win.
It'd be
her
fun.
Being from Netherlands. I was like, let us not create this awkward moments online.
Listen, I thought we were going to lose 4-0. So the fact that we had the lead and also played pretty damn well considering what we expected, I'm absolutely fine. I'm not fine.
Doesn't that make it more disappointing, the fact that you had the lead, though?
Yes, it does make it, but Gakpo scored, so I can't really be too mad about that. I told myself if anything were to happen, as long as Gakpo or Van Dijk are somewhat part of the goals, I'm not going to be too upset. It is what it is. But having Weghorst score a goal really does hurt. I will say that one stings. I think the commentator was talking about how Weghorst has, I don't know if you heard, but he has such a good memory about every goal he's ever scored since he was 7-8 years old. I'm like, well, then he must not score a lot, because if you can remember all of them that well,
no shit, right?
Maybe you're not scoring enough.
That goal, yeah, because I remember goals I scored because I was a defender. I didn't score a lot, but yeah, if you're like constantly scoring, if you remember every single one, that is kind of scary. Ryan says he's in a relationship with his air conditioner. We were literally, I was getting my whining about the heat out of the way right before we went on air over here, but. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how the weather is by you. You're a couple of hours away, but it is hot as hell over here. Obviously, it is in Indiana as well. No Lewandowski and losing. See, this is impressive, interesting, because we were talking with my brother yesterday. We did like an hourly show since obviously the Turkey is not playing till Tuesday, and we were talking about that. And one of the things that came up was Lewandowski. So let me ask you that, because I was saying that sometimes, when a guy like Lewandowski, who is the face of the team, is not there, it's almost like when you get a red card and the other 10 guys automatically put an extra 10% in because they know that guy is there. Yep. Do players play harder when Lewandowski is not there? One, because Lewandowski is not there, they know they have to make up for it. Two, let's face it, if the team wins yesterday 2-1, Lewandowski is still the face. He gets maybe credit, even though he didn't play great. Whereas if they won yesterday against Netherlands, it would be a true team win.
Yeah, and I think if anyone's been around the show for a while, they know that I'm
not the biggest fan.
I tend to criticize Lewandowski quite a bit, especially when it comes to major tournaments. He hasn't quite shown up the way that he has shown up for club or for the qualifying rounds. And the goal that he scored in the World Cup, the penalty against Saudi Arabia, I'm pretty sure that was the one. That was his first goal in a major tournament in a long time, very, very long time. And I don't know if it's necessarily been the team around him always, because there was that stretch we talked about last week from 2016 to 2018-ish, where they had some really, really good players, a solid squad, players that played on the same club team that, having that connection at the club level and being able to then have it at the international level is huge, because you have that chemistry that some players might not have. And so, yeah, I think overall it's almost in a weird way when we compare it to Mo not playing for Liverpool, it's almost like the team plays differently because it's not so force-fed sometimes. It felt like for Poland especially, there are times where you boot it to Robert and just see what he does kind of deal. Whereas in this situation yesterday, I mean, it was really nice to see everyone playing together the way that they did. And I really enjoy seeing all these fresh new faces actually given a chance and not just being called up to the tournament just for the sake of it. We talked about last week having these allegiances to the old guard, if you will, and the players who have played there before. And that doesn't work usually. And so having all these new guys, and I think Zalewski had a fantastic game. Obviously, he gave the ball away once that led to that Gakpo goal. But aside from that, he was electric going up and down the left wing. I really like him. I enjoy watching him at Roma. So I think overall they played better because I think there wasn't as much pressure to give Lewandowski the ball because he's a very demanding character, if you will. You watch sometimes Barca or you watched Bayern, his attitude, the faces he'd make when ball, like it feels like there's so much pressure to give him everything all the time.
Just to shut him up kind of thing?
Yeah, where I think, and not that he hasn't earned it per se, because he has scored the goals, but I think it allowed the players to play a little bit more freely. And I think expectations-wise, they weren't expected to do much, so that also helps.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan was saying that, like he thought even in full squads, it'd be like 3-1. So not having your best guy and still being 2-1 is like, Ryan says, is he not playing well due to his national teammates not being the greatest? See, I think that's a cop-out. I mean, if he's saying that at least. Because I think there's like an added pressure, right? Like when he's in Barcelona, he's like one of the guys. There's like stars all over the place. I think probably similar when he was in Bayern as well, right? I mean, he was the guy to score the goals, but I think there is a pressure to kind of carry your team. And just like you get probably unfair praise when the team does well, even if you didn't really have all that much to do with it, you get unfair criticism when the team does not do well because it's somehow all your fault. Like they could lose 3-1 and nobody will talk about defending. They'll be like, Lewandowski could not carry them over the edge and stuff. I mean, if you guys ever if you watch that, I don't know if you watched the documentary on Mane and, like his national team, how he's viewed in Senegal and stuff like that. So like when they don't win, it's Mane's fault for not carrying them over the line and stuff like that. And whenever something doesn't, like when Lewandowski misses, it's like he doesn't do this in Bayern. He would score that if it was in Bayern. Like, people like it for some. But, same thing. I think maybe the pressure is a bit too much. And like you're saying too, like when it's a club, maybe he's one of those players that plays better club football because he feeds off of the rhythm as opposed to, he's not really a guy that like, here's the ball, do something with it. Like, he doesn't come across like that kind of player.
Nobody has to be that kind of player for Poland because they were lacking that kind of quality. And for countries so obsessed and so passionate about the sport, to be able to produce nothing to show for it is just, it doesn't make sense in my head. You have all of these.
Welcome to my world, buddy.
Hey, I mean, a third place in a World Cup in the last 20 years.
Yeah, that's true.
That's something, true. I mean, I haven't. Poland got third place in the World Cup in the late 70s, early 80s. Like that was the last time they had any sort of a win, any sort of a sense of a golden generation, if you will. The closest thing I got was the Euros in 2016. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's always a bit easier to play when you have so much more quality around you. And that is a big benefit. When you look at players on Barcelona, they're much better than the players on Poland. And that's just the matter of fact. So,
and maybe that's what it is too. Like, it's when you're defending, it's a lot easier to really focus on Lewandowski because maybe you're not as afraid of the other guy. Like you're like, you know what? We'll let him have the space. Whereas I don't know if it's Dembele or Sane, like whoever. Ooh, what?
What a goal! This is also a watch along now, friends.
Yeah, it's a watch along at the same time. I forgot to mention that the game is going on as a semi watch along at the same time. It's not that big of a game, but that was some goal.
I like how we
that he
just
cranked up.
peeked over just a moment.
It's been like on this other monitor, so it's like in the corner of my eye. Occasionally take a look, but yeah, that was some goal that he cranked up. So Romania is up 2-0 now. Yeah, holy cow! If you didn't,
Two
if you're not one,
beauties this game.
what?
Two beauties this game. Did you see the first one?
Oh no, I just
No.
turned it on like basically at halftime right before we went on air. So
First one is even nicer than this one.
really, I mean, here's the thing. You know, we're talking about this yesterday from earlier as well. Now Copa America is starting on Thursday.
Yeah.
So now you can literally start 8 in the morning and watch soccer like throughout. Because the other one I think is that they start at 6 o'clock or something like that. I think
the wife is going to be very happy.
Yeah, I mean that's why you gotta kind of. I mean, I can only watch. So that's like I was telling Colin about this before. Like I've kind of adjusted that myself a little bit. Where, I mean, it's soccer, so you're hungry for it, and I'll watch it. That's kind of like bad goalkeeping too.
Oh yeah, he should have. Oh,
he like it took like 4 seconds for him to come to the grounds.
if he wasn't the Real Madrid keeper for a few months when Courtois was hurt, I think I'd give him a little bit of a pass. But at his level, he should be saving that.
Yeah, it just like it didn't look like it only initially, but when I watched the replays now, it took like almost too long for him till the gravity is a bit less over there or something. It just took him too long to come down, and he would have saved that. But yeah, I think you got to pick and choose your games. Like yesterday, I did not watch the Slovenia-Denmark game. And my brother actually said, but by the way, your guys' game was probably the best game of the tournament so far, in terms of pace, openness, chances created, maybe partially because of the players involved and stuff like that. But let's take a look real quick from the beginning. So it starts with the Germans demolishing Robertson and his gang over there. Here's what I was going to ask you. Like, are you shocked that some of these teams, Croatia, for example, got pummeled in the first half?
Yeah.
But then they were like, you know what? We're going to stop this bleeding. And in a tournament where it almost feels like everyone, it's like the hockey, NHL playoffs and NBA playoffs. Like, really, unless you're really shit, you're going to go to the next round kind of a thing. I feel like, Scotland losing 5-1 to you and me, Poland and Turkey, that's good news because somebody is going to have a really shitty average already as the third. Like, right. If you're going to be a third in your group kind of thing. Are you shocked that these guys didn't do a lot more damage control? Because you're already, I mean, I know that's not a very tough group, but still, it's kind of like a risky deal when you lose 5-1.
Yeah, the Scotland one definitely shocked me. I feel like because of the added, I guess, chances to go through when you're third place, it really hurts to see something like that, especially if you're a Scot. So with Croatia, I feel like they have enough quality to be able to turn it around somewhat and be able to level out that difference, which is why, I mean, I don't think I was as upset yesterday at the end of it because it was 2-1 at the end of the day. Just down 1 in the goal differential. Yes, you don't get any points, but that 1 goal could, compared to the 4 goals of Scotland and the 3 goals of Croatia, who knows? That could be the big difference that you may need. So yeah, you would think that you would have a bit more of that sit back and not take as much. That's a third?
That is a third. Last I saw, he got a save and it was a corner, and now,
oh boy,
unless they're just like randomly celebrating the last goal, dude, that was so good. They got together again.
This is not good. This is not good. I did not expect this. I don't think many people expected this. I don't know what many people expected. Did you expect this?
I did not expect. Like, I didn't have any expectations one way or the other for this game. To be honest with you, I'm not that familiar with either of the teams. Did he just do a corner taken quickly almost?
Oh my goodness.
Is he off?
Oh.
Is he on? He looks like he's on because of that guy's foot, but that's a bad angle. Oh, he's clear. This is gonna go.
Horrible defending in the box.
Yeah, he just kind of like walked in there. Literally, he's just just cruised in there. He's like, "Excuse me." Yeah, I can't tell.
The morning coffee show is on pause until we find out if this is
Yes, we
offside
are
or not.
on VAR. We should have like some,
Like like a
Mecca's phone
template.
music.
You should, yeah, we should in our options just be able to pop that over the screen on top, just on field review right now.
This show is on a brief break, or like when it goes to the local commercials where they
Oh,
just
it's
do
on.
the. We should have some like intro. Yeah, did it even go to VAR, or are we
They
the only ones that was looking at that?
well, they had the automated offside thing, right? So that was probably double checked, and that was it. And they might show a replay of it.
Technology that the Premier League has denied to implement
Yeah, I
and
mean
have
that
a
was
stopper.
that was what 30 seconds, and you're done. You're ready to move on. That
Yeah,
was
if that, I don't. I mean, I like they by the time they showed the replays of the goal, they had already kicked off. But yeah, yes, he's like, "What is my misery?"
oh,
Says Shevchenko.
Shevchenko. You deserve this. Just kidding. I don't know if he doesn't deserve it, but
He doesn't deserve Jack. He can't be too happy. He's Ukrainian, isn't he?
he is. Yeah,
Okay,
he
I
is.
was like they showed him like he should be like very pleased about this. He's like, what is this shit? If I can't even score at 50 years old. Okay, going back to this. We're back. We're back live in the studio. So first group. I mean, here's the thing. Scotland, despite that poor win, I think the other three teams being equal or close, I think I still don't consider anybody like out. I know it's hard to consider somebody out by the group anyway, but when you look at Croatia, for example, and the fact that they're like averaging 80 years across the board in a squad, I find it hard for them to go out now because they still got to play Italy as well.
Yes. Sorry, I just saw. It's just I think it was a pretty nasty injury there. I don't know. Can't tell.
He's
Could
up.
you?
He's up and about.
He's fine. He's fine. Could you repeat the question really quick? I'm so sorry.
Don't consider Scotland now because, like I say, he's like the other teams are pretty close, but Croatia is a different scenario because you're already -3 and you're still going to play Italy. And I know you can beat Albania and be third in the group, but your goal differential is already in the craps. Whereas we'll get to the Albania game, but Albania escaping that one with only a -1 doesn't look as bad.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing though, right? Croatia could definitely make up that goal differential against them quite easily. I think they could put 3-4 past them. I think so. I think after taking a loss like that against Spain, it's not good for Croatia. And I think they're as a successful national team, as successful as they've been in the last 6 to 8 years, I think they take that result and they turn it around. And I think they beat Italy and they beat Albania, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah.
But honestly, like the Italy-Albania guy was a slice of old school Turkish soccer where they probably came out there to just hang in there because Turkey just played Italy. And Italy, we were watching that game with my brother and like constant like messaging back and forth on like WhatsApp and stuff. And Albania scores the fastest goal ever in a Euro, like 23 seconds, I think it was, right? Yeah. So they score that goal, and then they almost lost everything. So like when Italy was playing, I was like, dude, we shut this Italy out pretty good. So we were contemplating, is Turkey's defending good? Or, is Italy a lot better than we thought? Or Albania is a lot worse than we think and stuff like that. And you could kind of tell after the 20th minute, once Albania settled down, mind you, they had already conceded the 2 goals. But once they settled down, Italy really could not do anything. I honestly think if Albania doesn't score that goal, that game could very well end up 0-0. But sure, because they scored that goal and they kind of lost, I mean, this would happen to Turkey all the time. You go in there, you're like, we just got to hang on. At least the first 20 minutes, nothing conceded and stuff. And then you score, you're like, wait, we might win it. And then everybody gets excited, you lose your shape. And that's basically what happened to Albania. They conceded 2 quick goals within the first 15. Again, I think it was 11 and 16 or something. And then they were like, oh, shit, man, we got to defend. That's what we came here for. I forgot. And then Italy could not open them up the rest of the game.
Yeah, and just like you were saying, once you take that lead, all of a sudden you think, okay, well, what's the game plan now? We didn't prepare for this.
Yep.
Now we prepared to take this to halftime, take this to 60
Yep.
minutes, and if it was still 0-0, maybe we throw another shot out there. But then we even sit back even more so we can hold on to that 1 point. But yeah, after 23 seconds, you're like, rip this up. I don't know what to do now. So yeah, and I'll be honest, I didn't watch the entire Italy-Albania game. The first game I was able to watch from start to finish because of work and whatnot was the Poland-Netherlands game. So I've seen some of the highlights. So when I'm saying that I think Croatia is going to beat Italy and Albania, part of that's talking out of my ass. Part of that, I just do think that there's enough quality in that team and
Welcome
enough
to the morning show.
experience. Yes, this is the morning show where I typically talk out of my ass and Timuchin has to save me.
See, only thing about Croatia is like, god damn, they're old.
But they're so experienced.
Yes, I mean, I don't know which way you take it, but against Spain, they just, yeah, you can either look old or you can look experienced, and they looked old against Spain is how they
Fair.
look. So I guess it really depends on how they look against Italy. That's probably the big game there. Yeah, with Albania, like, yeah, it was almost like as we were watching it, and the great comedy, by the way, and now I'm kind of torn. So I watched some of these games from the Turkish TV as streaming, because it's like free, and then I watched a couple of them with like our Landon Donovan and Ian Dark. Like who do you want to kill more? Ian Dark by far, not even close, by the way. But and no. So I was more. It's comical with the Turkish one because the dude is flying solo. So I don't know what it is, but the Turkish commentating tend to talk way too much. Like it's almost like he's broadcasting for the radio at the same time. Like, yeah, we're seeing that. Like it's on the screen. Like we see fans. Yes, they're happy. They're like, as you can see, the fans are happy. Yes, we can. So you didn't even have to say that. But then you come over here and you listen to Ian Dark and stuff in that England game yesterday. I was like, oh my freaking God, yes. When is Ian Dark going to retire? A tragic, like a throat sound cord accident, something like that.
See, I had the benefit of being at my in-laws for the game yesterday, and they have this Polish TV box thing. So I was able to watch it with Polish commentators who are absolutely fantastic. I think Polish
really,
they're so good. Yeah, it's so enjoyable.
Is it so enjoyable because it's a Homer broadcast?
No. This was the England game that they were.
Okay.
I watched.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I watched unfortunately the Poland and Netherlands game with Ian Dark. So.
Yeah, you like I say, it's compared to what I listened to in the England game from Ian Dark and Donovan and stuff. It's a lot better. Maybe because he didn't have like color commentary to shoot it back and forth with and have awkward conversations with, or like less stupid things being said. It's just like the over talking and stuff. We really thought maybe this is the same broadcast they feed to the radio so that when you turn the radio on, but then he's saying stuff like, as you can see. So obviously the guy on the radio can't see, but yeah.
Yes, he can. He's going, hi, yes, I can. I do. He's making me see it.
But yeah, it's really painful. I honestly sometimes enjoy getting like weird streams in languages that I don't understand, because I was like tempted to switch the England game to the Spanish version so that I may not understand what they're saying, but at least I'm not going to be annoyed. I can just like watch the game. But let's get to that set. You're not going to like this screenshot, but let's get to this one. England's should be able to cruise, but I'll be honest, like the way they started that game, I thought that was gonna go downhill fast. And credit to Serbia, and we're finally seeing the highlight, by the way, of the VAR call from the third goal. But the way credit to Serbia for hanging in there, and really they could have snatched the goal in the second half and gotten a point out of that. Does that say a lot about England's? How do you view that? Like, having seen that game?
I feel like England was on the ropes for majority of that second half, and it was not. I know Southgate people like to we've had Southgate conversations in our Discord, especially in this and back and forth. So I'm kind of on the fence about it, but I don't think it's a good look to be a team of the quality you are of England to have to sit back and take shots from a team like Serbia, because you have too much quality to make that happen. You don't like to be a counter-attacking team and counterattack maybe 3 times the entire half, to say it the least, honestly. It did not look good. And I think maybe part of it was the first game potentially. So, players still getting used to each other, whatever. I think in some capacity, I believe some players were not being used properly in their roles. I feel like almost Rice and Trent were flipped in what they should be doing. Like Rice was doing more of what Trent should have been doing, and Trent was doing more of what Rice should have been doing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Was that because of what Serbia was doing? Like they didn't want Trent to have the ball and look up, but they were like, Declan, you can take a look.
Yeah, you can take a look, because he's not bad with his feet, but he's really good at holding possession, but he's not going to find that outlet pass. Like Trent had one ball yesterday. I don't know, it was like a 60-yard ball to, I'm pretty sure it was Foden down the left side. It was just gorgeous. But yeah, I saw a graphic that had a percentage of chance or of attacking creations for England yesterday, and there was 0 XG from the left side, and there were just 5 chances. And then the right side had 93% with like 0.84 XG or whatever it was, and then the center had some. So that left side, whatever was going on, that needs to be fixed up over there too. I don't know if it's what to do there, but it just didn't look like a great performance. They got the win, they did what they needed to do, but it wasn't convincing.
Yeah, and I honestly, in group stages, I know, like, if I'm Southgate, I'm gonna be like, who cares? We got 3 points and we move on, kind of a thing. But England is not that high quality. US was a better team against them in the World Cup. They're beatable. Yeah, I think that's the only issue, right? It's like you could see when Serbia started going at them, they were getting chances like almost regularly. It wasn't like, yeah, you guys can have the ball, you're not going to be able to do anything. It was kind of like they were playing with fire, and there were a lot of chances there. And like I say, Serbia could have scored, but at the end of the day, in the group stages, you kind of like take the points on. It's almost like at the end of a regular league season where you're like, it's only the results that matters, not how you get there, kind of a thing. Because you see teams where they're like, they play great the first game and then they win easily, but then after that they're shit. So, and then the first game doesn't do you anything. There's no points for style. So they probably take the 3 points and move on. The biggest question is, and obviously the biggest conversation for us Liverpool fans, was Trent playing in midfield. Do you look at that game yesterday and say, because some people were, maybe because I'm on the other camp, that I just did not see anything that I was like, yeah, see, this works a lot better. Did you see anything that you were like, yeah, we got to play him in midfield, man? It's very clear.
No, because it's the setup that they had is so different compared to what the setup at the club could be. I feel like they played so narrowly. There was no width whatsoever. So I don't think there was a good way to be able to compare. Maybe if there was some sort of semblance of width and having a 9, not like Harry Kane, because Harry and Harry Kane and Darwin Nunez are very different players. So I think it's really difficult.
Really?
It's really difficult to be able to look at that and see what they do and try to compare it to how it would work in a setup at the club. I don't want to say it 100% wouldn't work, because I think maybe there is some sort of a setup that does benefit what Trent can do while minimizing what he can't do. But this is not the time to look at it and draw from it to make a point one way or the other, I think.
You did the typical Mateusz over here. I like it. Ryan said also Trent sucked at midfield. Like, I don't know if he sucked at midfield, but anything good that I saw are things that he can do when he's playing right back, is what I saw. Like, or what the inverted guy. He was not the worst player on the
What?
pitch.
Foden was the worst player. Are
No.
you kidding me? No one even knew Foden was playing until he was subbed off. Or I
Yeah,
think
he was pretty invisible,
was he
right?
subbed off? I
Especially
think he
for
was subbed off.
him. And that's why, I don't know. Like, I take that as if I'm an England fan, I take that where you didn't play great, but you still got 3 points. That's my thing. How is there always
No,
at
he
least
wasn't.
one fan running onto the pitch in every game?
I don't know. Foden was not subbed off. I misremembered. I
He
think
should
it
have
was.
been.
I think it was when Saka was coming off. I was going, why isn't Foden coming off? So
I think the only reason was they were kind of in a defensive mode and they wanted to keep, they were taking off players that are weaker defensively and then constantly injecting players that are better defensively, because I think he realized it was going to be hang on for dear life at the end. I just find it odd that, yeah, like I say, he did give up the chance. But that was more like, and I was telling Angel, I was like, see, I've been saying this. It was because Trent was receiving the ball with his back, with his back to the goal, as opposed to what he does the right back, where he kind of comes to the ball, takes it, and he can look forward. I did not see anything. I think people were trying to see things, or maybe I was trying not to see things. I don't know where I stand on this, but I did not see anything personally myself that said, "See, this is exactly why you should play midfield." And I didn't see anything that says, "Oh, this is why you shouldn't play midfield either." Don't get me wrong. But I just felt like anything he does well, like that pass you're talking about, and like the between pass, he did a lot of. I'll be honest though, he did do a lot of runs. Well, he was going to be open, but there was no Trent behind him. It was Kyle Walker, so he did not get the ball. Like he would go wide right and stuff like that, and never got the ball where he should. I think he got it once and put a dangerous ball in the box in like typical Trent fashion. But so he did get wasted a lot. But like I said, I did not see anything, and that was probably like the main thing to watch in that game. To be honest with you, Ukraine is just randomly putting boxes in the box at this point. Your boy Mudryk over here.
why do we know? Can we get past that?
No, we can't, because you drooled about Mudryk for months.
When he was in Ukraine.
Okay. I mean, that was like what, year and a half ago, 2 years ago?
It was 2 years ago at least.
Well, your boy Mudryk. There you go.
All I ever said once in Discord was, hey, this guy's going to be moving to the Premier League really soon for a big fee. That's all I said. And ever since then, he's been my boy.
I don't know. We're going to have to look. Mudryk is my boy for sure, says Ryan. Yes. I mean, he is one guy. He looked old yesterday, though, man.
But he is old.
He is old, yeah.
The miles that man has on his legs is incredible.
Because, with like Mourinho coming to Fenerbahce, we kind of like make up rumors all the time. And they did mention that there will be some big names coming because there's like some people that play and stuff. And so we throw these random names out there with my brother. That's like the latest game of people who played for Mourinho kind of a thing. And we were like, hey, Modric might come. He's 38. And even at 38, put him next to Fred in midfield and he'll do a fine job. But yeah, you look at it yesterday, he looks freaking old. That was, and that's another thing I was going to ask you. As you watch these games, do you notice? I was looking at Serbia yesterday, for example, like Mitrovic. Not that he had a bad game, but Brozovic, for example, for Croatia. These guys who went to Saudi Arabia don't look themselves. Is that because they were not going to be themselves, and that's why they went to Saudi Arabia in the first place? Or is it the competition they face? Ooh, nice save. Is it the competition they face so their levels have kind of dropped? Because you can kind of go both ways.
I was going to say it's probably a mix of the two, though, because when you factor in age plus the quality of play, then that definitely, I think, has a big impact on your form, on your conditioning, just everything in general, because the speed and the physicality of the national team tournaments are far different than a league like Saudi Arabia. Right? I mean, not that I have sat there and watched a ton of Saudi Arabian league. Actually, I have watched zero of it, but I can only imagine, given the quality of players over there, that it's not quite this. So yeah, I think having the mix of the weaker league mixed with age is definitely one of the big reason for that. I wish we could see some more younger players who play in Saudi Arabia to play in these kinds of tournaments to get an idea of, is it across the board just weaker, or if it's just
like who though? Like, you know what I mean? Like the younger guys are from
right.
Saudi Arabia, so you're
There
not going to
was Neves that went from Wolves over to Saudi Arabia, but I don't know.
Did he get called up? I don't even know if he
think
got called
so.
up.
Yeah, I don't think he got called up. So that's the problem. We won't find out. You can see the first goal here, by the way.
Ooh, that is nice.
Little layoff. And that should have been saved.
That's on the goalie. The more I watch that, the more on the goalie that second goal becomes. Saidu is back. Trent has described about his lack of aggressiveness and defensive instincts. Will make him poor midfielder, except if he is top to play as a 10. And I've been saying this for months and years. You don't have 10s anymore. Like that 10 thing is dead. Ryan says Neves is part of. Hopefully, I won't find out when he comes in against Turkey. But because we are in the same group with them, I just don't know if. I mean, that's a good point. Like it's probably a combination. I just noticed like a huge drop. But let me ask you this: like, if you put this is a good one now here. Okay, and you're not going to be able to. You'll find a way. But okay, Premier League. If you put a team like, let's say, Villa in the Euros, where would they go? Would they be like middle of the pack? Would they be one of the favorites? Would they be struggling? Ooh, nice
save. I think
I was gonna say West Ham. Then I went to Villa for somebody more consistent and stuff like that to really put the pressure on you here.
There's what, 24 teams? Yeah.
24, yeah.
6 groups of 4. Do you want to just scroll down from the standings, and I will just I'll do a little count in my head, or I can say it out loud. If you just
so you're gonna like go by, you're gonna put them above. Okay.
I'm just gonna look. Yeah, I'm just gonna look. So
Group 1. Where are they ranked right now after Group 1?
3rd.
Who did you put above them?
Germany, Hungary, and Switzerland.
So they're 4th.
Yeah, because John McGinn would have to play for Aston Villa. So sorry, Scotland.
Okay, this is gonna be easier. How many teams do you put below them? I guess let's do it that way.
Okay,
so you put Scotland below them. Group 2,
Albania.
Okay.
None.
Really? So then we're actually like talking. No league is at this level. Then that's what I was trying to get to over here and paint yourself to a corner. So we're pretty much done. Aren't we saying that really no league is at the level of what we're seeing at a Euro based on, because looks like at this pace, you're only gonna put maybe like 6 or 8 teams.
That's what I thought it was gonna end up being. Like they'd be between 14th and 18th out of 24.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
But then again, the Saudi League, we shouldn't give a lot of criticism for, because this is one of the better teams. I mean, they were in the top 4, right? They finished in the top 4. So it's one of the better teams in the Premier League. If we're putting them at that level, obviously forget the Saudi League. Some of the other European leagues have no chance then.
Well, I'm comparing it to the quality of the play within the league amongst the clubs against each other, though, and having that quality of play then can move over to the national team. So I think, if this experiment was able to actually happen, A, that would be a ton of fun, and B, I would be curious to see how the chemistry of being able to play together throughout the whole year would lend itself to a tournament like this, where you have guys coming in together and they haven't played together in months or ever in some capacity. So yeah, but if you were to say you take the best team in Saudi Arabia, right, throw them in this tournament, and you take the best team in England, throw them in this tournament, can you say that City
win this tournament?
No, I don't think they win the tournament, but I think they could be pretty damn close. Can the best team in Saudi Arabia get close? No, absolutely not.
See, honestly, now that I even asked the question, because goes back to what you're saying, Ryan is saying as well. Like they play together all the time. I can see like City doing pretty darn good in this tournament, just based on the fact that they know how to play with each other, and that is a big strength, right? I mean, because if you look at the Premier League, I mean, really, almost every player plays for their national team. I would think. I mean, if you go up and down,
especially in the top
roster, yeah.
top
So,
eight.
I mean, you look at us. Forget playing for the team. Most of them are freaking captains, for God's sakes, at Liverpool. So I can see a top Premier League team really being like one of the favorites to win the tournament, just on the fact that they're like used to playing with each other. Ryan says Manchester City would win this, no doubt. With buying the referees or just like in regular
I don't know. I still think no matter how good a club team is, if you put them against some of the best teams in an entire continent that you can form an entire team out of, I don't think it's
your boy Mudryk skies it again, by the way. Go ahead.
I don't think City could beat France, for example. I don't think City.
See, that I would probably make that the final or something like that. And it'd
be.
Why do you say that though? Like, why not?
I guess in a one-off they could. Maybe I shouldn't say that they can't, because they absolutely can. But I think with France, you're pulling from a pool of some of the best player, essentially runners-up in the World Cup, but World Cup winners 4 years before that. It's consistently some of the best players in the world, and you're taking the best from the clubs around the world, whereas City they have who they have. So I don't know. If I were to put money on any club team to win a competition like this, it would be Real Madrid, because they've proven that club tournaments for them, they're cream of the crop.
City could bring. Ryan says Liverpool could beat France. I worry about our defending. I worry about the defending more than anything else. Not that City's defending is that good. I mean, it would be tight. Like I would have hopes of winning the tournament, going into a tournament with Liverpool in a tournament like this.
Really?
Yeah. It goes back to, like having an established play style that everybody's used to. I mean, everybody's healthy. Like, you're kind of starting with your, starting 11 and stuff like that.
Right.
Putting things in like, kind of like a bubble and looking at it that way. But yeah, I think it would be darn close. It would be darn close. Maybe that's why I think maybe you put Villa a bit too low, and maybe they should be like second or third in every group.
Maybe I did. It's we could run some simulation.
Let's get this tournament going.
We could run some tournament simulations on FIFA and see where they would finish. Simulate it like 20 times and see what the average finish would be.
Let's do this.
The question is, let's say in situations they match up with England. Is there just a carbon copy of Ollie Watkins?
It's like FIFA when you play against Liverpool, like Mo is going against Mo and stuff.
Okay, so
we're making this, making that scenario there.
Okay, because then fine, then we will never ever know.
The problem nationally that they don't play. Yeah, I mean that's the biggest thing is the fact that they are not used to each other, and you do see that, and I think that's what, in some ways, that's what makes these tournaments a bit more fun as well, because it's a matter of like who can get the most cohesion within a limited amount of time. It's like a game show, and that's why mistakes happen too, I think, and you see a lot more of that kind of stuff where you're like, oh, I thought you were gonna make that run. I mean, heck, we see that in like your regular like club teams where there's like, oh, I thought you were gonna go wide and stuff like that. So obviously it happens a lot more, and I don't know. Every national team also has some kind of in the background drama, or like other cliques and other stories happening behind the scenes and stuff like that too. That comes into play, I think. So it makes it not that club teams don't have that as much, but it's a bit different because in the club, I think you're kind of stuck with it the way it is. So there's not much you can do. You got to fight through it. Whereas in a national team, in most cases, like Ryan was saying earlier, more than likely the guy who's managing you right now is not going to be managing you next time around in, at least half the cases. So you can kind of be like, you know what, I'll put up with it this time, whatever. This shit's got to change. And then you kind of play accordingly, mindset wise.
Yeah, I mean, do you think also potentially there is an argument that for these players playing, let's say you threw Ollie Watkins on the pitch for both England and both Aston Villa at the same time.
Okay.
Wouldn't the England Ollie Watkins want to win a little bit more than the Aston Villa Ollie Watkins for representing country over club? I think for us as Liverpool fans, I think we're very much club over country most of the time. And that's fine. I mean, it's not a bad thing if you aren't. I'm not saying you can't be country over club sometimes. But for these players, these moments representing their countries, I think that adds a little bit level. I know it doesn't make up for skill, but it certainly makes up for wanting that ball a little bit more in those 50-50s. So
I can turn that table on you, though. It could mean more, but doesn't that also put additional pressure on you that affects your performance? You're a lot more comfortable in your skin going out there with a Villa jersey as opposed to the England jersey.
Absolutely could, but at the same time, sometimes players play better off of that. Some players are better under pressure and others are not. And it depends on
your boy Mudryk is not, for example.
No, he's just not good at all.
He's taking a corner kick as we speak. And a horrible one Jesus at that. Didn't even make it. Barely got on the ground for the guy in the front post.
I understand having tired legs after 89 minutes, after 90 minutes. But as a player who makes millions of dollars a week, you can't beat the first guy on a fucking corner.
That drives me nuts. And it didn't even look like they had a guy. It wasn't like, it was going to be a bit higher so the guy can flick it. I didn't even see a guy making the front post run. Even if he did, he was behind 3 Romanians. So I don't think that's going to happen. If I'm Romanian, I'm like, okay, we're in the next round. That's my biggest thing with Turkey tomorrow. If Turkey beats Georgia with the scoreline, I'm like, yeah, we're in the next round. I mean, unless, you go lose 9-0 to Portugal or something,
sure,
you're in the next round. You got 3 points and you're in +3. So bring it on to the other 2 teams, whoever they are.
Well, this game's not done yet.
This game is done. Mudryk is not there. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Turkey takes on Georgia tomorrow. I wish that Mudryk is horrible. I wish it was not the first game. I'd rather have them play like Czechia or something like that in the first game, to be honest with you. Because Georgia, first time in the tournament, they're going to be all gung-ho about this. And Turkey always sucks in the first game. So it's not a good way to start. But let's hope for the best over here so that I'm in a good mood to continue to watch the tournament. In some ways, when Turkey goes out, it's a relief and you can start enjoying it more, but that's a different story. So having seen that yesterday, do you see Poland in the next round?
No.
No, that was the fastest you answered all morning.
I think, well, the problem is they're not going to be able to beat France either. So you have to rely on a win against Austria. And I think given that, I don't know what Austria is going to look like. I think we'll get a good look against France.
Who is in Austria?
I don't remember. David Alaba. He's pretty much, that's it. I'm sure there's more I'm not thinking of at the moment, but
Sabitzer, isn't he there?
Oh yeah, he is. Look at us knowing our Euros.
Alaba, Sabitzer, Arnautovic. Is he still there? Baumgartner. I'm assuming Arnautovic is still there, but I don't know if he's starting or not. Honestly, the other ones, a lot of players obviously from Bundesliga.
I think it's if they can beat Austria, the worry is that playing France, if they lose by 2 or 3, you're at 3-4 goal differential going down. If you beat Austria, you're going to have to beat them by 3 or 4 to at least get that close to 0. And I don't see this Polish team being able to score that many goals without Lewandowski. I mean, as much as I
when is he back? Is he like
he
out?
might be back. That's the problem. The timetable is.
I do apologize, by the way, because all these injuries came in the Turkey game.
I mean, it is what it is.
But to be fair, one of them was a guy injuring himself as he was celebrating a goal. So I don't know how much mercy I have on that.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. And you don't expect a torn bicep while playing this sport. So,
is that guy playing, by the way? The guy that hurt himself celebrating? So is he out of the Euros?
He's not out of the Euros. He just didn't play yesterday.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if he was out for a long time because he was like in tears. Either embarrassments or the fact that sometimes players know it's bad, and I mean that would be the biggest humiliation. You missed the Euros because you celebrated in a meaningless friendly too much and landed on your ankle.
Yeah, he was dressed but not dressed to play. So, but he's still around.
Well, at least he wasn't naked, so that's good. That's good. Ryan likes Turkey making it through, but that's probably the worst spelling of Turkey I've ever seen, by the way, Ryan. So congrats.
It's very phonetic.
It is. I'll give him that. I don't know. Like, so is he? Because I thought when he went out, I mean, I guess it's a torn bicep though, and I don't even know how it happened. Like, there wasn't like I don't know if he just like a freak ordeal because like I never saw him during the game get injured and come out. Like he came out, you assumed he was injured because it was like the 30th minute or something crazy like that. But I was like, ugh, Matush is not going to be too happy with the Turkish team because we just put two strikers out for the Euros, kind of like an ordeal. But I do think they will beat Austria. It's just a matter of, how big the damage, and I guess a matter of what Austria does. Do they snatch any points from like the other guys and stuff? I think, obviously with these first games in the books, for the most part, there's always going to be too much of an overreaction and too much of a, projecting way too much from the first games. But did you see a team, like, did you look at Germany and say they can go all the way? Or you were like, the Scotland is shit? I mean, that's the only game I can think of. And Spain looked good.
Yeah. I'd say Germany and Spain were pleasant surprises. Not that I thought that they would be bad, but not that they would be so cohesive and so good. Because then Germany struggled very much in the recent tournaments, especially the World Cup. And Spain obviously has had some rough patches, but I think they're finally getting through. The fact that Spain, the team is so young too, it just blows my mind as to how good they are with the level of players that they have. They have a nice mix too. They have a nice mix of the really young and first tournament inexperience versus all the way to the other side where you have guys playing in their like 6th, 7th major tournament and still scoring goals in the box as a defender. But I don't know what is going on with I can't even remember his name right now, but Madrid defender that scored in the Champions League and a couple days ago. The right back, Carvajal.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of like anti-aging cream he's on. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, I think he's a great example of a guy. Like, he's not fast or anything like that either, but he kind of knows how to play with his physical abilities. And maybe he is managed well where, those deficiencies never come to light. Even when he goes against wingers, it's always compensated for. But yeah, I mean, he's one of those guys that like, how is he so good? Like, you see certain guys that are like, he's so fast or he does and stuff like that. But he's like, how is he so good? Yeah, Ryan says he's just really smart. Yeah, I think like some players basically know. I mean, I always felt that way about Milner. Like, despite, when he played left back and stuff, there's something to be said about. And I feel like I've done this in the past where you gotta know you're not fast and play accordingly. And I think not every player can do that and do it well. And some of these guys, like Carvalho, is a good example. God damn, man. Yeah, that's funny you say that because I was literally thinking the same thing. So real quick before we go, Copa America, how much of that will you be watching? And will Michelle kick you out of the house if you watch too much soccer?
I think.
Does Michelle watch soccer?
No, she doesn't.
Okay.
She sometimes will watch some Liverpool if it's on, but typically I come up here to watch it, and there's just this one chair and these headphones, So it's pretty much a very independent experience. So I don't really open the floor for other viewers.
She's like,
So
can you turn the sound on at least? Like,
no,
it's bad enough I have to sit on the floor, but can you turn the sound?
I really want to listen to Ian Dark this time. That's why she sits on the floor.
Actually, to be fair, you're doing her a favor.
Yeah,
Why
I was
not
gonna
letting
say.
her listen to the commentary? You're like, honey, trust me, this is good for you.
You listen to this, and you're gonna want to not watch anything forever again. So you're fine. I'll watch a little bit of it. I will say, for better or for worse, I'm more drawn to the Euros, partly because of the background of who I am, and maybe just general interest of players who are typically playing more often in Europe that I'm more used to seeing. Not that a lot of players in Copa America aren't playing in Europe, because the top players are, but I think the level of drop off between the best teams and the worst teams is a lot higher in Copa America. So some of the games are just so unwatchable because the quality is just awful. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that Serbia could beat Brazil, but I think Serbia could put up a decent game against Brazil, whereas a team that's not very good in South America would not. I'll watch a little bit of it. I think I would be curious to watch some Colombia and some Uruguay. I think upset wise, one of those two teams will win the tournament. I don't think Brazil or Argentina will win the tournament.
Really? Ryan has called Colombia for a while.
That's my shout, is either Uruguay or Colombia for me.
To be fair, yes, he has also called out Hungary. I told you that Hungary was not that good. Just not that good, having seen them in a friendly and stuff like that. And they might go to the next round, don't get me wrong, but I just don't see him like, oh, this team can beat anybody kind of a feel. I just don't get that from them. I mean, the Copa America thing, yes. I mean, it's a bit more vicious. It's a bit more old school, I feel like, compared to like some of the tackles flying around and stuff like that. Like, this guy would never make it, kind of a thing. Like
Did you see the Diaz? Yeah, the dude, that could be a career-ending fucking tackle. Yeah. How absurd was that?
But the funny thing is, these guys, this is how like they played throughout the years as they made it to this level. It's just so that they see it as more their brand. It's kind of like when the old school players now watch today's game and they're like, oh, that's freaking ridiculous. Like, some of these things are like, I mean, you're a basketball guy. Like, look at NBA. Like, you can't even like sneeze next to a guy now. Whereas you watch NBA from 20 years ago, where they're like punching each other in the face and they keep going.
Yeah, but that's not a good product of the sport, though. I think people love to say that the physicality is gone, but it's not. Players are just a lot more athletic, and back then people were just taking cheap shots because they weren't athletic enough, so they made up for it by throwing punches, throwing guys to the ground, doing cheap screens, undercutting people when they jump. Like, that's the kind of stuff that old heads like to conveniently not talk about, is the bullshit side of it, where if you just weren't athletic enough, you'd make up for it by just doing dirty stuff. It wasn't physical good. It was physical dirty.
I'm going to go in between. I know exactly what you're saying.
You're going in between now.
Yes, I'm pulling a Matush on this one. I'm a little bit of both. So, because at the same time, like, this whole, like, Reggie Miller used to do that, right? Like, as he's taking the shots, he would just throw his hip out there so that, he can get some free throws on this whole swinging the ball thing. And I think they changed the rule and stuff. I'm like, come on. Yeah, it's just, or like they just do this thing, like go around that way to get fouled. I'm like, oh, come on. Like, that is so lame. I know, just watch like Harden, for example, in like today's NBA, and you can kind of see everything that's wrong with the NBA kind of a deal, where what I mean? Like, in terms of how like some things are called, and it's just like, oh, such a bore to watch.
And I'm not saying that the product now is perfect, because it is not, and not all of the 80s and 90s physicality was dirty. That's not what I'm saying either.
Yeah, so it's somewhere in the middle.
I just think that sometimes people, they will say, oh yeah, they were just more men and more manly and more physical, while conveniently just not really not addressing the fact that some of it was just dirty. There's a difference between being physical and playing the sport, and just completely not playing the sport and playing a different sport entirely out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I feel like, I wasn't trying to be Matoush. I feel like there's a happy medium. Like, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to call every ticket like the same thing. And like going back to soccer, it's like the same thing where it doesn't like, I like it when a tackle like that was on Diaz is like the player is protected and that is a red card or whatever. That's good. Like in the past, this would just be a tackle. No, it shouldn't be. I mean, like you're trying to kill the guy, but at the same time, some of the stuff that happens and gets called, you're like, you got to be kidding me. Like that's kind of like part of the game. See, for example, that is very, the NBA was way better than now. Every team scores 120 a game, no defense at all. I think that's not no defense. A lot part of that is like the rules have changed as well because Ryan, and you're American, you should know better because Americans like scoring, and somehow the higher the scoring, the better the game is how things are viewed because people want to sell it. It's the same thing with football. Like you can't cough next to a wide receiver anymore. You watch some of these old games where they're like wrestling all the way down the field and stuff. That's why all the passing records are being broken because you can't even touch the guy anymore. So I think it's like the scoring is so much emphasized. The biggest criticism I always hear about soccer is it's so interesting. They play for 90 minutes and it's 1-0. Well, it's freaking hard to get that one. And that's what makes that one more special.
It's the building of the tension. Like you're always 30 seconds away from the entire game changing, right?
Yeah.
And a big complaint of basketball is that they score too often. What's the point of cheering these baskets when it happens every 10 to 12 seconds? I'm just gonna wait until there's something really, really cool that happens because of what's the point otherwise? I will say I think it's a bit bullshit to say that the NBA was way better in the 80s because of low scoring. They just weren't as good. The players in the league now, the 8th, 9th, 10th players on a team today are easily starters back in the 80s. And
just athleticism wise, you're saying?
I think overall, because of training regimen, because of coaching, because of how they're brought up, I think 100% they are much better than, I think the best of the best in the 80s. It is what it is. Like you can't top that. You're not going to have. I'm not going to transplant. A bench guy and say he's gonna take out someone who was playing in the who was getting all NBAs in the 80s. But from 1 to 12, look at the team buildup. The product is a lot better because players are a lot better. I know you can complain about the amount of scoring and the defense. But when you watch the games and really try and break down defensive schemes, like if you watch a Timberwolves game or just watch a video on the Timberwolves playing defense and seeing what their schemes are like defensively, you get a different appreciation because now every guy on the court can shoot a three. Back in the 80s, you had 4 guys sitting in the fucking paint and had 1 guy who can maybe shoot a jump shot. You're telling me that that's a better product than being able to move the ball and having 3 guys being able to actually dribble the ball, whereas before you just had 1 guy who can bring the ball up and down and that's it?
That's a good way, by the way. You might have unlocked a key to compare eras. We should do this with soccer as well. Like, can you take the third guy off the bench? Will he be the third guy off the bench right now, or will he not even be in the league? Like in soccer and stuff? Because it's always impossible to compare eras. Like people will be like, what would he do now and stuff like that? So because it's like different brands of games. But yeah, that is a good way to compare this. Like take the third, fourth guy off the bench. Is he still the third, fourth guy off the bench, or is he not even making the squad? But yeah, see, we found what can really unleash the fury in Matoush over here. Just
no, it's not fury because I'm
shit.
I am not going to pretend that I'm the biggest NBA fan. I don't sit there and watch every single game. I haven't watched every single finals game. I haven't watched a ton of playoff games either. I get incredibly annoyed by the whining and the complaining of every possession. And I do find it ironic that there are a ton of basketball fans who don't like soccer that complain about players complaining and laying on the pitch when basketball players are 10 times worse. And it happens.
Dude, it has gotten
regularly
ridiculous. Yeah. I don't know if they're watching too much soccer. I don't know what it is, but yes, I have. This was not as bad, right? I mean, the flop, forget the like complaining, the flopping and stuff like that, exaggerating everything. It has gotten really, really bad. And it's like I say, maybe they're watching soccer. They're like, hey, this shit works. And then like kind of like transferring it over here. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. See, this is why I love the Monday shows. We went on a total tangent again. Got Ryan all riled up. You most importantly got you all riled up.
I'm not riled up. I just think it's a lazy argument to say that the NBA back then is better because they scored less. I mean, I think that's I don't know. There's ways to appreciate each era while not degrading it at the same time. I think every era had its charm to it, and we have just seen an evolving game evolve into what we have now. And I think it's a lot harder to play defense because it's a lot harder to have to guard a 6'9" guy who can jump out of the gym and can actually dribble the ball, who can shoot from 30 feet out, who can drive. It's a lot harder to guard that than it is to guard John Smith sitting in the paint with his back to the basket every goddamn possession.
Oh man, if I knew this, I would have started the show with it, I swear. Ryan says it was man, yes, I'm gonna next Monday we'll have a debate session in the middle of the show. Because honestly, but I mean next week we'll have probably Euros and Copa America to talk about. But
yeah,
yes. I'll tell you what, I think this tells me I was gonna ask you that, but we're already way over an hour. But I find it weird that once my team is out of action. And maybe this basically shows my love probably more than anything for the sport itself, but I continue to watch the sport, whereas I feel like maybe it's just me, but most people over here are once their team is out, for the most part, they stop watching the rest. So if your team didn't make the playoffs, most people don't even know what's happening in the playoffs. They just know the scores and they might not watch the final and stuff like that. Whereas like in soccer, obviously, even when 2K is out, I'm going to keep watching it. Even if, like Liverpool is out, let's say Champions League or whatever, we still watch Champions League, even if they're not in and stuff like that. I don't know if that means because I love the sport a lot more and like my life is invest in it a lot more. Mm-hmm. Or, yeah, I don't know what it shows. I was thinking about that earlier because something happened with I was like, NBA Finals. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. The only way I follow it is basically through scores.
I think it's easier also to put your attention into a one-off game versus a series of 7. That's a lot of games to follow up on, right? I mean, you're sitting there. Yeah. You have potentially 28 extra games after the season ends. That's a third of this. That's a third of the regular season. If you have 4 7-game series, that to me is ridiculous. I mean, that's the one thing. I think if we're going to change anything about the NBA, it's the playoff system. And the amount of games.
I don't mind the play. I would just change the number of games in a season. That will never happen. That will never happen in American sports, mind you. Like like look at baseball and stuff because that's where the money comes from. Because I feel like this whole like players not playing and stuff like that is just like, I mean, how do you even buy? First of all, as expensive it is, I would freaking throw a fit if I spent a fortune, took my family to a game, and the main guy is not playing because he just played the last night, so we're resting him.
Yeah, I mean, they did pass the 85% rule, where if they don't play 85% of the games, they're not eligible for certain awards, and those awards do end up making an impact on your contract and the money you make. So it does provide an incentive for these players to actually play the game and not just rest for the sake of resting if they care about the money side of things. But for some of these star players, they have sponsorships, they have endorsements, they have other things. They don't need that extra contract boost from another All NBA or whatever it is. So
they make more money off the other stuff than their contract.
They don't care. So it's more of a selfish thing that if you want to be considered having all these awards and accolades by the end of your career to be able to be compared, because that's how people compare eras the most is just by those individual awards.
NBA is just a team full of it's a bunch of midfielders playing basketball, basically, is what it is. But hey, we'll call it on that note. And then I'll be back Wednesday morning. Tonight's gang will be back though. I will not be making an appearance on tonight's show. Got some Father's Day festivities to attend to. Because of when the kids get older, you got to kind of like do the scheduling and adjustments so that everybody's schedule fits in a day and stuff. And as they get older, like the birthdays and stuff like that, you can change dates. It's like Columbus; you can celebrate on a different day than your actual birthday. So that's what we're doing. But Bickler and Galley will be on. I'm sure they'll talk a lot about Euro stuff. I highly doubt they're going to talk NBA. But you never know. Tune in. They might talk about anything. I'll be back on Wednesday morning. I'm sure there'll be a lot more Euro talk. Hopefully, I'll be happy because at least Turkey will have one. But have an awesome week, everybody. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Thank you.